Good morning. Before I get started, I need to share with you the fact that this session, as wonderful as it is, feels a little incomplete. I knew I was going to be asked to be speaking on time, but what I hadn't really fully prepared for was the fact that the person that I knew in the world who cared the most about time, Jay Cross, someone that many of you know, had passed away last fall. And he's the person who not only taught me not just the value of time, but how fleeting it would be. And so I'm here this morning, really before I begin, by acknowledging the fact that we are but a very small percentage of the influence in our lives as it relates to time, the work that we do, the learning we have. And it's not just about what we have to share, but what all of us together are able to do. So with that, I would like to begin by saying that I have been in many of your shoes. I began in actually as a brain scientist at the National Institute of Mental Health. I have been a training manager, a corporate education leader. I have been an academic. I'm a fellow at a business school. And throughout my entire career, I have cared deeply because of the way that I was raised, the family that I grew up in, the society that I live in. I have cared deeply about the fact that we are all we have. Though I agree completely that it is not AI that is going to solve all of the problems of the world, I hope, and what I haven't really heard here, I hope that the technology and the computing power that is available, hopefully just right over the horizon, will allow us to do away with the dumb work, will allow us to do away with the work that we have never enjoyed doing, and will automate out of our daily lives the things that don't make sense. I often answer the question when people say, do I think that AI is going to replace learning or any of us? I say, if in fact technology is able to do away with your job, then it should. That's really the opportunity we have to get back to the business at hand, to the work that needs to be done, and what we are uniquely capable of doing. So with that frame for our time together, I want to begin by telling you the story of where all of this began for me, at least in my work life. And that is, I don't know the ages of all of you, I guess I'm about to admit mine, is that I was a new young trainer in 1990 when I was at Microsoft. And for those of you who remember 1990 and the technology world then, Microsoft made a decision, actually after I had been there a little while, to adopt the use of DOS, or actually DOS 5, for those of you who want a little bit of a laugh, a giggle. IBM had been supporting DOS until that point, and Microsoft made the decision that they would actually take on the support for that role. And so I was pulled in, I was brought into a meeting with one of my dearest friends at the time, who was an HR manager, and I was a training manager. And we were told by Joachim Kempen, our vice president, that in the next 9 months, Kathy and I, not a team of people, not a large group of people, but the two of us were going to be responsible for growing the division that we worked in our company, the support services division, from about 40 people to about 4,000 people. 9 months. And at the end of those 9 months, the company was going to start supporting DOS. And so it wasn't that these folks had to be ready or hired or in their jobs. They had to be taking live calls from irate people. They had to truly understand what it means to support a product that everyone universally disliked. And it was our job not only to find all those people, but to train them, prepare them, to ready them to face the onslaught of what was in front of us. Talk about a time crunch. We had to figure out how to make this work. And so we were given the opportunity to go off-site for a couple of days. We were just given that time to figure out what in the world we were going to do. And while I would like to say we could use the knowledge we had of how we moved forward in the world, after spending 2 days together and talking about what all of our options were, we realized there was no way. There was no way to bring on that many people, to train them, to prepare them, to ready them, to be able to solve such a complex problem in such a short time. Well, until we started realizing that we were brought in, what was unique to us is that we were brought into these roles not because we were seasoned managers who had all the expertise and knowledge. Far from it. We were brought into these roles because we weren't embedded in the way that we did things, that we would look at things with a clean slate. And in our case, that's what we did. We realized, one, that there probably were people out in the world who already could do a good job, and it was going to be our task to find them. Some of the people that we hired, they probably would know a good bit of this knowledge, and instead of assuming that no one knew anything, so often as education does today, we had to assume that many of them knew many things, and it was our task to figure out what they knew and what was the gap, and how it is that we would move them from where they were to where they needed to be. So here's what we did. First thing we did is that we did away with the complex hiring process that is so often done in most any organization. And we printed on business-sized cards the contact information for our recruiting services. I will tell you, this is before the web. There wasn't a URL they could go to. It had a phone number and a name of a person who was going to answer that phone. And though we talk often about referrals in the hiring process, this was a referral process unlike any you had ever seen. If you were getting gas for your car, if you were at a restaurant or at a family gathering, and you met someone you thought, oh, that person would not be horrible on the telephone and they would not be rude to people they don't know, you took out a card out of your pocket and you handed that card to them and say, if you're ever interested in a new job, I might have one for you. And it immediately streamlined a very complex process by having at least one filter that was already taken care of. So that was pretty novel. It's still very novel. I encourage organizations that I work with today to adopt similar sorts of practices, and sadly, very few of them take me up on it. But those that have dramatically decreased the amount of time it takes to go through the 17 interviews in order to get a job, and still aren't the greatest hires in the world. So that was bringing people in. We brought people in, and then we tested them. Now, not the types of tests they were already hired to determine if they were going to be good at the job, but we wanted to get a sense as to what it is that they already knew. And then we focused what they were going to be learning on what it is that they didn't know already. That was day one. And here's the kicker. On day two, we put them on the phones. I'm going to let that settle in. On day two, we put them on the phones. Now, when I explain this to people, I often have people say, oh, I think I had one of those people. They probably answered my call. It's all coming clear to me now. I understand why they didn't have a clue what they were talking about. We as educators know that nothing teaches better than experience. And nothing is more eye-opening than knowing that you are completely unequipped to move forward in your job. And so immediately we could focus on time, on attention, on what needed to be done. Now, we had other support engineers available to them to be able to work that out, but these are the days really before the release came out, so it worked for all of us. But then we spent the next 6 weeks readying them for those roles. I'm often asked if it worked. It did work. We rolled that out, and we were then actually able to roll out Windows 3.0 and 3.1 and all those other funny things that I look back on and I think, oh, we thought that was such a big deal, and now it's no deal at all. But I explain that to say that so often what we're doing is we're trying to add things to our lives. We're trying to do too many things. When asked the question I'm often asked, which is the real issue that we are out of time, I would argue that the real issue is that we're doing too many dumb things. we're spending way too much time agreeing to do things that have always been done that way, or that are new and just foolish. The opportunity we have is to remember that the only way to really unlearn something is to ride over it with something better. And our opportunity is not to add more to our lives and to be able to solve our time issues that way, but instead to ask the question every single day of every single decision you make, is this a good use of my time? Is this the right use of my time? Can this just not be done at all? And I implore you to take that tact, because if we're to add more to our lives, I don't know where that's going to happen, and neither do you based on the polling results. Our opportunity is to look with fresh eyes and to say, we're out of time. I live in the US, probably as you could tell by my demeanor and the way that I speak. And if anyone feels that they are out of time, it is me and the other Americans sitting beside you right now. But many of you I know also feel that way. And that is every day that we are choosing to work in a mediocre way, we are settling because our boss or our institution has said this is what we need to do today, and you need to do this for whatever the pebbles put in your path lead. You are capitulating, you are choosing to settle. And I encourage you to say no more. Everyone I know wakes up every morning and asks the question, is this the day that I'm going to make a difference? And then the day gets ahead of you. And at the end of the day, you think to yourself, look, another day gone by where I really didn't make that big of a difference. And I'm going to say, and I say this with love, that's no one's fault but your own. A few years ago, after having a career in the learning field for pretty much all of my life, actually, I started teaching classes when I was in second grade. I was invited to a meeting by someone that I barely knew in the small community where I live in rural Virginia. And the fellow, who was someone fairly famous actually, who had moved to my community, asked me if I would be interested in joining a project. And their focus are some of the brightest minds in the world, actually. If I was interested in working on a project that was specifically being designed to reshape, fundamentally shift the systems of our society. That was big, that was bold. I've been, I guess it was in my bio, I haven't even really explained, I've been a corporate fixer actually for the last about dozen years. And I've gone into some of the world's largest corporations, usually at their biggest, desperate, most painful time of need, and have been in the position, because of what I know about how the brain works and how people work, and how they are personally or just tragically handling how they deal with their people. I've been in a position to help organizations make global large-scale change. And so this organization, this gentleman invited me to a meeting and asked if I wanted to join them and help them out. And to cut a very long story short, I said no, I wasn't interested. I'd worked on too many sort of save the world projects, and they'd all ended badly, and they'd broken my heart along the way. And as we were leaving, he said, if you choose not to join us, and I believe you will, and I should say I did. If you choose not to join us, would you please stop helping companies that really should die? And that's really what I'm here to ask you too. If we are out of time, it's because we have done dumb things. We hire the smartest people we can find, and then we treat them like idiots. We develop policies and procedures to keep that one person from doing that one thing again and again, as opposed to saying, let's find the people who are smart and thoughtful and caring, and let's find ways to help build experiences and provide them resources so they can do what needs to be done. Let me repeat that. I believe after spending 30 years as an educator in one way, shape, or form, that the only value of education is to provide people experiences and resources, and not just get out of the way, but run as far and as fast as you possibly can. But the people around us are capable of doing amazing things, and the only way we're ever going to get their help, their support, is to ask them, to encourage them, and most importantly, to model that I too am here to make a difference, and I am not going to anymore do the mediocre, the dumb, the silly, the time wasting. We've all done it. I could spend all of my time giving you examples. But when I look back on my career, that is my only regret of how much time I wasted. Not because I had Facebook, I didn't. Not because I was out or spending time on the phone or doing other things. I love efficiency. I love focusing on the most important things. But I look back and I realize I agreed to do dumb stuff. And I have no doubt in my mind, as smart and as wise as you all are, that you are doing it too. But here's the challenge. I don't just need the energy and the experience that I have. I need it from every single one of you. I had 4 stops to get to Germany for this conference. And it involved Lufthansa in this case, which is really complicated. And I chose to spend my precious time, your precious time, here today. And I keep standing in front of people. I apologize for that.
That's cool.
Because I need your help. And we each turn to your neighbors, need the help of one another. We're out of time. Please, stop doing the silly stuff. When you catch yourself doing it, do something that's going to move you in a different direction. Model for the people that you work with that there is another way. If this is not the day where you say, I'm going to make that difference, make it tomorrow. I know you can. You're our only hope. Every single one of us is required to make this difference. And that, to me, is not just a matter of time. It's a matter of effort and a matter of learning. And if the people who understand how learning happens better than anyone else in the world are not going to stand up and make a change, I don't know who is going to. And I hope we never get to that point. I need you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.